We'll begin today, as we always do, with a short meditation. So I invite you to relax and close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. Imagine yourself floating in the ocean. And on the inhale, you're floating up to the top of a wave. And on the exhale, you're floating back down into the trough. Up on the inhale, down on the exhale. If thoughts should come into your head, allow them to move through you, the way the wave is moving past. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we're listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Hello and welcome to Marianne. Looks like we have Paul and Carrie are logging in. Okay. So for today, we're going to start a little bit where we ended. For those who were here last week, there were a couple of opportunities to think about a Mussar practice. It might have been looking at another soul trait. Sometimes in equanimity, we're feeling out of equanimity, we're feeling out of balance because some other soul trait is out of balance. You know, our patience is out of balance. So we get frustrated in some situation and boom, we're out of equanimity. Or there's also the option of trying to practice equanimity directly through meditating. So as we look at our mantra, surf the wave, don't get crushed by it or swept away. How was your equanimity challenged this week? You know, did you try a practice? How did that come into play? And if you weren't here, you know, I suspect most of us had some point during the week when our equanimity was challenged, even those of us who are in Maui. So, hi, Paul. So who would like to begin? Nancy.
So I had mentioned to my partner last week that the soul trait I was going to work on this week is trust. And I've been very lonely lately. Well, it kind of comes and goes, ebbs and flows. And I realized it's because I'm not trusting the universe, and I'm not trusting me, and I'm not trusting life. and I'm not doing anything. So because of the fear of COVID, I have locked myself in my own little bubble.
Mm,
And I did some examining this week, and part of the trust is to release some of that bondage that I have basically put on myself
mm,
to go out and enjoy living. And I decided COVID's going to be around. I'm going to do the best I can. I met with my son and daughter-in-law yesterday to buy my son his suit for the wedding, which is in 4 days. And so I trusted myself to be around them, to go and enjoy this experience.
mm,
It was fabulous. We had a great time. And then something right at the end came up about us getting together for Christmas Eve. And it was like, okay, sure. If people want to come over, some of my son's friends and one of his friends his family lives right near you. His whole family came down with COVID, so he
mm,
can't go. So I'm trusting to open my house
mm,
for these people that are really a part of my extended family through my son and daughter-in-law to come and experience being together over the holidays. And then I'm going to go to my senior center near me and get involved in classes. It's like I don't want to live by myself in a bubble. I want to live and do the best I can. And that trust opens up so many opportunities. And I'm really grateful for reflecting on that.
Wonderful, Nancy. Thank you so much. It sounds like that was very meaningful to you and gave you a new perspective on some choices that you had. Thanks so much for sharing that. Anyone else care to share? Yes, Joanne.
Hi. So I have also been trying to venture out a little more, but try to wear a mask as much as possible, because the last thing I want is another cold like the one that I had like from Thanksgiving that really isn't 100% over yet, maybe 98% over. But I realized today when I decided I'm going to go out because they're saying it's going to rain, but they're usually wrong by an hour, and they were. So, and the library told me the book I had reserved was in. So I did that. And also last Saturday, there was a party at the synagogue, and I think I wore a mask some of the time, and I just try to not be on top of people. Because I had discussed this with my oncologist, who said that, you still got to live your life, And so, I went to the train show on, I guess the Hanukkah party was 2 weeks ago. No, I'm not confused. All right, no, the Hanukkah party was Sunday. And yesterday I went to the train show. I met a friend, and I did wear a mask a lot of the time, especially indoors. But I realized that I feel a lot better when I'm outdoors. And then this coming Sunday, I'm inviting people for what I call Laughter Fest. I've been doing this for years, but not during COVID. And I think it's going to be about 10 people. And I told everyone to please take a COVID test, like a fast test the day of. And if you feel sick or you're coughing or anything, don't come, So, it's like trust God and tie a camel kind of thing. I want people to, because I said I'm immunocompromised, and I don't want anything to interfere with my treatment or my recovery. So that's my story for this week.
Thank you, Joanne. Paul.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I went into the synagogue office Friday, and I did have one of my outbursts about something or other, and Stephen in the office is my equanimity coach, I guess you call it. He said, "Why are you getting so crazy?" I said, "Oh," I said, "Did you miss me?" Because I haven't been in there. And I don't know what. Somebody did something dumb, and I know. We're trying to we had a raffle, on the last Sunday, and we're trying to figure out who paid. And we got a sheet from the woman who was in charge, and she didn't use a ruler, so things were on the wrong line. But it actually, we worked it out. But that's why I got agitated. Why didn't she use a ruler? No, you know, but I got over it. So I think practice makes perfect. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne.
So, yeah. So I had decided that order, which is something, is an anathema for me in most cases. I loathe order. I enjoy things being spontaneous, and my brain really likes to connect with things that are out there that I just never know what is going to happen. So, but I do know that in order to take all that experience and make it useful for me, I need to have some sense of order. So I'm learning at age 68, I'm learning finally how to sort of manage that process. So order is, I've come to realize, is really important for my own equanimity. And in particular, I'm realizing that my physical body is something that I depend upon, but I'm not really good at keeping it up. And when something happens where I tweak my back or something else, it's not as bad as it used to be, but still it sort of screws up whatever my plans were for the day. Whatever I was going to do, I have to move much more slowly, or I can't do the things I wanted to do. So my sense of order was to ensure I do the exercises on a regular basis, because I know those are good for me. And that actually helped in the sense that, so I'm out in California now. I'm in Southern California with my mom. And hi, Nancy, you're just not that far away, as I understand. Good, good. So travel for me is really hard, because if I'm sitting for 6 hours at a time in a plane, that really does a number. So I have to make sure that I do exercises in advance to make sure that I'm ready. It sounds silly, I know, but you know, it can be a long plane ride can just break my body. So even though I was feeling, I think, stressed beforehand, so I was starting to feel like my neck was hurting and other things, I just focused on just do the bare minimum if I have to, just like do something in prep. And that really helped with my not getting panicked about how, oh my God, I'm going to be crippled when I'm at my mom's for the first week trying to recover from this. I just kept thinking, I can handle this. I'll be able to get through it. And it's amazing, by just including that has made a difference in my outlook, in my my point of view, and in my not feeling like I'm going to catastrophize something. So just remarkable to hang on to that. I'm definitely going to hang on to it for a long time. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's a great illustration how, you know, I am guessing, or if it were me, I would say, okay, I'm not going to catastrophize about taking this plane flight. It probably wouldn't have helped. But by saying, I'm going to practice order, and I'm going to, all right, these are the things I need to do. By doing that, the catastrophizing didn't happen. So that's kind of exactly what, you know, we're talking about, is finding that the catastrophizing is the symptom, but
Right.
the underlying issue was, you know, not doing the preparation.
Right. Yep.
Awesome. Sue.
Yeah, I appreciated last week when we talked, and I think I was in Nancy's group, but the idea of using another midah to help you with this one. So I love that, because I never really focused on that before. And when you gave the list of things, I thought, oh, trust, because the definition, that was what I was going to work on this week. The definition is not to control things. And I tend to control stuff in my own little environment. Not other people, but when I'm doing something, I want it done my way. So this week we had a birthday / Hanukkah party for my husband, and we had 10 people that were coming, and I got everything together and I set a really nice table, but I always like assign people like where they're going to sit at the table. And it's a lot of work trying to figure that out, and the dynamics. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to let them just whatever. So it was actually kind of funny because we got to the table and then everybody's like, well, where do we sit? Sue always tells us where to sit. So they didn't know what to do, which is kind of funny, but they all figured it out and it actually worked out kind of nice, that people sat where it worked out, and the conversation, we actually had one of our best times ever in terms of a really good conversation when I wasn't controlling that. And so that was kind of nice. And I wanted to add, to be in the moment was good. I'm thinking about equanimity. I was reading about it, and it was important to stay in the moment of something. And I tend to be a planner too. So for example, what just happened to me is my daughter sent me this lovely little message about Hanukkah. She got my card and everything, and it was so beautiful. And I fought back the tendency to say, well, are you going to come tomorrow? Because the weather is bad. And so it's kind of up, and she'll let me know if she can come, but I want to not control it, but I want to know. So I want to ask her, but I know that's going to get her, she's going to be like, well, I don't know yet. And that's going to put like a pressure on our relationship. So I just said to myself, okay, you can wait to tomorrow and she can tell you. I don't have to plan this. So that's what I mean by like, just trust in the process, kind of let go. So that's what I'm trying to do more of.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sue. That is awesome. Yeah, now that we've been doing this for a while, we can start to experience this interplay between the different soul traits. Hi, Karen. I see you have arrived a few minutes ago. Haven't had a chance to say hello yet. Welcome. Marjorie.
I find that I'll get into my head, and there's going to be circumstances where my knee jerk is just like, I'll freak out, but I really have learned to, I'm going to freak out internally. And then immediately I just stop and just breathe, for many midot, just stop where you are. And just, I love this concept in meditation where you let the thought, it's going to be there, but just let it go. Just watch it move on like a cloud. And I start breathing. So I really rely on meditation a lot, even if it's just for like a minute, just to come back to center. And because it's really hard for me to control sometimes that, like, I internalize, I'll be frantic. I can't, and I try really hard, but I find meditation really does help bring me back to center.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I call the direct practice of equanimity. The soul trait stuff, that's the indirect practice. But just meditating and breathing, that's like, okay, I'm just going to try to calm the body. I'm just going to try to let these things go. And it's really different from, okay, I'm not going to freak out here. That's staying in the head, but just breathing through it and letting it go. That's powerful. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that helps you. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. Okay, so we're not going to go there today. So again, here's just a reminder, and we looked at this a little bit last week, of our spectrum of equanimity, where we can range from like too little equanimity. Hysterical is maybe a bit of a judgy word, but it's just like reactive, just like everything. It's like, oh my God, this and that. Or it's like the greatest, the ice cream cone is the most fantastic ice cream I've ever had. And, just kind of over the top. Because sometimes it can be, it's not always bad things. Sometimes it's getting too wrapped up in something that's good, this can throw us off as well. And too much equanimity can really be just like, though, whatever, whatever happens, that's fine. And and what these both do, someone used the word presence, they both remove us from the presence of the moment, of kind of being where we are. And when we're present, we're best positioned to kind of surf, whatever's happening. Wow, you're having a great wave, just enjoy it, without spinning off into the sky. Or if it's more of a difficult wave, just navigate as best you can and try to miss the rocks, even if it bounces you around a little bit. Any thoughts or comments about this? Yeah, Sue.
When you said missing the rocks, it just reminds me of being on the path, that things are going to come at us and we have to navigate that path of life. And sometimes we're going to veer off, and then we have to have the presence of mind to get back on. That's what it made me think of.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of like some you're walking the path in the woods and somebody sets a booby trap and something swings down and knocks you off the path, and okay, you get back up and you start walking down the path again. Paul.
Yeah, I think it's really, this idea of chaos surfing or surfing the chaos. It's come up. There's another. It was a class that I took not too long ago that was one of the posts that we were looking at. It involved this idea about chaos surfing, and so for me, the idea of surfing on chaos sometimes is very comfortable because I just feel very at one and like whatever happens, happens. And other times it's like very, very difficult. So for example, I was looking at, this may seem off, but anyway, my family has this thing about fear of heights. And for me and my brother and my mom, and my mom, for some reason, was able to keep that fear at bay when we would go and do things like go to the Grand Canyon, being in the western part of the US, going up in the Space Needle in Tacoma. She would close her eyes and just pretend that, everything was fine, even though she was terrified because she didn't want to pass that on to her sons. So the fact that I was terrified when we were going up the Space Needle, I thought she was fine, and I was the one that was terrified. But it was a lack of communication. But I was looking at some pictures from this place called Angel's Landing in Zion. If anybody's been in Zion, there's this one peak that's way out, almost in the middle of the canyon. And to get there, you're walking along the spine of this it's like very sharp, and you're walking along it. And I was looking at pictures on Google Maps, very safe. I'm on sea level now, and my stomach was doing flip-flops just looking at that. And I'm thinking, how in God's name did I ever walk along that? And I realized that for me, part of chaos surfing is I have to build up the muscles to do that. And I think of people who are surfing 50-foot waves, they're on the North Shore of Hawaii, and it's like they're just hanging on for dear life just so they don't get crushed by the water, right? But I don't surf anymore. But if I did, I wouldn't be able to just go out there because, hey, I surf, I can surf this wave. I wouldn't be able to survive. But it reminds me that it's not just leaping in with both feet. That's not the way it works for me anyways. I'd have to build up my ability to be in water like that, or to be in heights like that, whatever it is. I know I can do that, but I need to work on it. So it's reminding myself that if I can't do it, it doesn't mean that I'm like somehow there's something wrong with me. It just means I need to start slow, if that makes sense.
Great reminder about what Mussar practice is all about. It's starting for wherever you are, and if that's getting out the boogie board and the 2-foot wave, that's just fine.
Sounds
Um,
lovely.
Yeah. This reminds me of my Equanimity challenge this week, because I've had just a lot of final papers and finals to do, and a lot of sort of things coming at me. And I decided actually to focus on enthusiasm, but in the sense of alacrity. Like I was just going to kind of keep it going. It's just like, okay, I have some spare time. I'm just going to jump right on it and keep it going, and not kind of. Sometimes I try to plan or budget my time, but sometimes that planning stresses me out as much as other things. But it's like, okay, I had a bioethics class and we had a review that the last day, and then 2 hours later the final came. It's like, I'm just going to do it right now, even though I was in the middle of this other thing. I'm never going to remember it more. I'm just going to knock it off. And so that was kind of how I sort of avoided getting kind of too stressed or spun up over the finals. I'm just going to kind of keep it going. So that's the approach I've been taking. All right. Oops, I think this is the wrong. That's the wrong one. Yes. Okay. So we got a couple different quotes here. So maybe can somebody read the first two, please?
Okay. A person who has mastered peace of mind has gained everything. To obtain peace of mind, you need to be at peace with your emotions and desires. And Rabbi Simcha Zisel Ziv, the Altar of Calm. Mussar scholars describe equanimity as a state of being thorough, which a person can face. As a state of being through which a person can face any situation without being moved from a centered self. That's Rabbi Jennifer Gubitz, the Mussar Torah commentary.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, while I put these up in the chat, I'm curious, these are two sort of what I think of as complementary approaches, slightly different ways to think about equanimity. I'm curious what sticks out for you. Do you resonate with one more than the other? Does one sort of not resonate with you in some way? Bonnie.
It's really good. Let me just say that I'm in Chavruta with another member, and we have our Chavruta on Wednesdays now, which is really good for me, except when I miss a class. But to be able to take what we've had in Chavruta and bring it into this class. So we were talking about equanimity yesterday. For me, it is the hardest soul trait. And the second one, I'm just going to click on the chat. The second one really resonated for me about being centered. For me, equanimity means being on that balance beam, which I never did as a child, but I was an ice skater and a ballet dancer. So it was either being on toe or being on the balance beam. And I spent a great deal of my energy being on that balance beam, being centered, not letting me get thrown off by things that I can't control. And so that piece really resonated. And it was almost the same thing as Alan Morales said in beginning of the chapter on equanimity in his book, about not getting thrown off, or in your case, thrown into that wave, but being able to ride it. Really like that. Thank you for putting it up.
Thank you, Bonnie. Yes, Sue.
I really resonated with those two words, emotions and desires. I think that's it right there. Because we just, as human beings, I feel that I have, that's when I would go off, like if I'm in a situation, like for example, we haven't gotten our mail in 8 days from the post office. Now, everyone knows the post office is having trouble, but 8 days, So I went down there and I actually behaved much better than many of the other people, but people are upset and it's taking them out. I mean, it's emotionally, there was one lady who was waiting for 10 gift certificates to give out at Christmas and she didn't get them from the mail. So what is she going to do? So I think that's a huge, that's emotional, I would say, but it's also a desire. I want to
Mhm.
get that present. And I'm also, so it throws us off. And I think it's so easy to be off kiltered that way. And I like what Marge said about breathing, just take a second, just breathe. I mean, how do you deal with when the emotion comes through and you get angry? Angry is one of the big ones, right? So just to take a moment. And then the other thing that when I was telling somebody the story about the mail, they said, well, you've got heat, you have food, everything is good. So that's the other thing, is to think about the big picture. And, this is just a small thing, not
Mhm.
getting the mail.
Thank you, Sue. And I think you're bringing up a really powerful point. And what is Rabbi Simcha Zissel Ziv? What does he say we should do with our emotions and desires? Do we suppress them? Do we pretend they don't exist? What is his advice? What does he teach how we should interact with them?
You want me to answer that?
Sure.
Oh, well, he said the first quote, right? You're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, he says here, if you've mastered it, you need to be at peace with your emotions. Now, I don't know. I guess I would ask the question, what does that to be at peace? So maybe if you have those emotions, that's okay. You're just, you have them. I mean, I don't know that. I guess I would ask that question.
Yeah, let's open it up. What does it mean? Be at peace. Paul, I see you chomping at the bit here.
Yeah, I think that's really it. It's being at peace. I have these emotions and desires. It's just like letting them be and not trying to control them, not trying to say you're not supposed to be feeling this way. It's like, I'm feeling this way, but that doesn't mean that I need to do anything about it. I'm just feeling it. Anyways, it sort of comes back to me when I was talking about catastrophizing things. If I feel a certain way and it's like, and I start beating myself up because I'm not supposed to feel this way, I shouldn't be this way, then now I've totally engaged with whatever this negative swirling thing is, and it's going to take me a long time to pull myself back out. My mom and I were talking about this morning that she had trouble sleeping last night, and she has she ruminates, at night, and she tries, breathing, meditating, and sometimes she just can't get herself out of it. And it's mostly because she's, beating herself up about something, or she's stressing about something, like she's not going to be able to do something she really should be doing. But being at peace with, okay, I'm worried about this. It's for me, it was, and I think I mentioned this a long time ago, but when I realized that the feelings in my body that I have when I'm both anxious and excited are really pretty much the same. If I can just convince myself, I'm not really anxious, I'm excited. I mean, it's a bit like surfacey, like I'm not really addressing what's happening in my body. But if I just change my point of view a little bit and not take it so seriously. Anyway, so that's.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. So let's take the case that Sue brought up that she overheard in the post office. I have 8 gift certificates I'm going to give out for Christmas. they're not here. What am I supposed to do? How might we, and this is again to the whole group, how might we, if that were us, how do you be at peace with that? How do you be at peace with those emotions?
Mm.
Joanne, are you on meeting?
Yeah, I think if that happened, I guess I'd make like little IOU cards or something like that, you know, to look like gift cards. And just say, you
Yeah.
know, it's not here yet, but it's coming. Mhm.
Right, so try workaround. What, how do we get to the place where we can do the workaround, how do we get to that place of peace where we're like, okay, let me try for another.
Mhm.
What does it look like to not be at peace? Marjorie, what are your thoughts? And
I
then,
think, using the energy, that would be negative. I'm not on mute, am I?
no, I hear you.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I would go into a creative mode, use that energy. And then I also think all of these issues, I deserve the best. And like Sue said, I go to, are these first world problems? When I start, digressing, I bring myself back by thinking, oh my God, you have a roof over your head, you have a thermostat, you can turn your heat on, you have a refrigerator, you have running water. I go back to that a lot, more and more, because I'm facing every day, we face situations that, oh my God, be thankful for what you do have.
Mm, thank you, Marjorie.
Yeah.
Marianne.
Lower my hand. Okay.
I guess I'm along Marjorie's line. I mean, you think of what's going on in the Ukraine and in Africa and all these horrific things that are going on, and it just doesn't seem to make that much of a difference. It just doesn't seem to matter that much. So,
Gotta try to take some level of perspective over.
right, it's taking perspective.
Mhm. Great. I don't know whether it's Frank or Linda.
I was just thinking that, yeah, we've been learning that the post office there's some dysfunction there, deep dysfunction. There's nothing really we can do about it. And so when I go to the post office and they're closed because they're understaffed, I don't get mad. I just, redirect myself. So the idea is to know how to deal with situations, especially situations where I have no control over.
But my Christmas is ruined.
So I'm getting there.
Okay.
So the thing is this about gift giving, it's not really gift giving, it's gift expecting.
Mhm.
And the question is, it's up to us really to redefine that.
Mm,
Because when we care about the people around us, there's ways of getting even. And what I mean by getting even, okay, I can't get that gift certificate, but I know what to do about that. What I mean is that the idea is to figure out some other ways that you could make up for something that you had no control over.
mm,
And what we have control over is the way we deal with the people that we want to gift.
mm.
But yeah, I want to share one more thing is that sometimes, I guess the way I am is I'm very thoughtful about gifts. And sometimes I don't hear that it's been received. And so I have no idea. And so I've learned to just not care. Not care in the sense that I have no control. And that's okay. Because from some people, you just, their lives are way busier than mine. So I think I've just learned to do that. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to gift them. It's just that I just have to be thoughtful so that I know what it is. It's my attempt to show that I care.
Thank you, Paul. Sue.
I wanted to add, since I brought this up, when I went down there, I ended up, when I went there, I was sort of upset about the whole thing. But when I got there, everybody was so mad and I felt really bad for the guy behind the counter. So I got up to him and I was actually making jokes and we were having a good time. And one of the neighbors I knew, I gave her some gelt and some dreidels, for Hanukkah, whatever. And so it actually turned into be this really good experience in the sense that I felt like I said, and then at the end I had a package, and then I said, well, you want to check my mail, right? And he comes back, and this was the weirdest thing. He had mail for me, and it was like a Hanukkah miracle because nobody else had the mail. And then I felt bad. But I'm just saying, being kind in these situations, the poor people, they can't help it. I mean, they're there working. It's the other people who couldn't show up the reason why we didn't get the mail, not so then that's just something to think about in the situation, is to be kind to everyone if you can.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this, and you've all given just fantastic answers. And the way that I think about it, and to sort of add to my initial thoughts, is like, I think about it as like being at peace with the emotions and desires, is to like, first of all, accept them. It's like, wow, I'm really upset that I don't have my mail. I'm really mad that I don't have my mail. And just say, okay, that's understandable. But then where do you go with it? Then is it, I'm going to take the piss out of this poor guy who's working in the post office? Or am I going to be like, yeah, I'm upset and inconvenienced, and I'm going to be kind. I can do both of those things. I'm sure he's upset too. He's not like, he didn't sign up to get yelled at all day before the holidays, or to give people bad service. That's not.
He may not have gotten his mail either.
Right. He may not have his mail either. So it's sort of like when we can go into that place of acceptance. Like this one of the most heartbreaking things that happened in a small way was my mother, who had very little money, basically no money at the end of her life, but she had some jewelry she wanted to share with my daughters, and she put it in an envelope and sent it to us. And someone in the post office stole it. Like, we got it, the envelope was ripped out, and the things were gone. And I had to tell my mother. I was like, do I tell her? Do I not tell her? And she's like, I picked those from my heart, and there was no one else. I don't have other things to give. And then she was like, all right, I'll find something else. I'll go back to my jewelry box. I'll find something else. But she and I just tried to, I was like, I'm just going to give her space to feel crappy about this. And I felt, we both felt terrible, but it was, it didn't turn into, oh, I'm upset about this, and these things always happen to me, and why is the world out to get me? And it was a little bit about like, why do people do these things, and why don't they know that how hurtful it can be? And but it's just really, so these kind of, I think, come under the rubric of kind of being at peace with the emotions. Linda, was that a hand?
Was having had my own experience like that with the post office, not as dramatic, but did you file a report and ask
No,
for
I didn't. I
compensation?
thought about it. I sort of wish I had, but because I think there have been other incidents, but yeah.
even though there was no conclusion for me, it was satisfying to know that I could at least say something. Not angry and yelling, but
Mhm.
take a step.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's too late, if you still want to do it.
that was a long time ago, so now I'm at peace with that whole situation now, but I think it's another good example of when we're in peace with our emotions, we can make choices and take actions. I chose not to, you chose to, Bonnie.
So I wanted to talk about expectations, which have been raised a number of times. And one of the Al-Anon phrases is, expectations are the doorway to resentments. And the best example is that I have 8 grandchildren, 3 boys and 5 girls. Girls love to go shopping. So I will take them shopping with a budget. And with 4 of the 5, I sit by the dressing room and they come out and they show it to me. Last spring, I took my almost 17-year-old granddaughter out shopping, and I discovered I needed to be at the end of the store, nowhere near her. And what I was a driver and a credit card. Once I figured that out in the first store, those expectations went around. She didn't care what everybody else did. She didn't care what her mother and the other 2 aunts did. This is how she was shopping. One of the things I've done with my grandkids, I only have 1 here in Silicon Valley. The rest are in the Midwest, not far from you guys. And so at the age of 10, they don't need anything more, seriously don't. So at the age of 10, in my budget, they get a gift, a check, and an experience with a gift card. And the experience can be anything from taking my grandson to some arcade that I have 0 interest in, but he loved, to taking them to theater or ballet. That's fine here, but I've got 1 in Canton, Ohio, and 1 in Carmel, Indiana, and I may be there when the shows are there. So this last spring, I saw a show in Carmel, got on the computer, said to my son and my daughter-in-law, would you be the stand-in for Lily's Hanukkah gift? This is now April. Hanukkah really was not in April. She has the gift card. I'll pay for the tickets. Would you stand in and send pictures? I can, of course, put them on Facebook. And that turned out to be, I couldn't be there physically, but I was there because mom or dad stood in. So sometimes taking those expectations and changing them, as I had to do with my granddaughter shopping, or not being, or finding out that my 2 little granddaughters in Ohio love mani-pedis. So that's the gift card. And I'll go with them for mani-pedis. When you're 6 years old, there's not much to mani. But they still. So just the expectations, whether they're mine or somebody else's, that can get me into trouble.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we've been talking about emotions a lot, and that's a really good example of desire. Your desire with your 17-year-old grandchild was to get the fashion show and see the outfits, but that was not what she wanted. And so you're like, okay, that's what I wanted. I'm going to be at peace with that, and I'm going to just step away, and I can turn this into what's wrong with this child, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with the world, or it can be, I'll go over here and on the other side of the store and enjoy myself doing something else and know that she's had a good experience. So yeah, that's another great way of, I think, being at peace with our desires. Well, as you may have figured out, I decided not to send this to breakout rooms today because we were just having such a good discussion. And I think what I would like to do, what I am going to do, is in Toastmasters, one of my stars, he would say, don't say, I would like to say, just say it. You don't need to. So I'm gonna bring up the kind of list of midot again, and we will put it into the chat.